Om Shri Sai Ram. Welcome back from our break. Like I said, we are honored and privileged to have Sister Sumana Madhav here for Our Lady's Day for 2023. And to introduce her, we have another equally amazing sister, Ramya Rao. I welcome her up to the front to introduce Sumana Madhav. So thank you both ladies.
Everyone. Oops. Sorry. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Sumana. She was born into a family that has a very long association with Swami. Her grandfather, Dr. G.P. Rajaratnam, was a very well-known author and orator in the state of Karnataka, who was the first in the family to be called into Swami's fold, and it was through him that the rest of the family had the privilege of being close to Swami. Swami used to call him Manaratnam, my jewel, and he was a professor who had the unique opportunity to address the students in Swami's summer courses on various topics of spirituality during these times in Vrindavan, with Swami's blessings and in his presence. As his youngest granddaughter, Sumana was very privileged to have been named by Swami and feels a very deep sense of gratitude for having been born into the family that was very close to him. She remembers she's been fostered by him through her childhood and has many wonderful experiences through her family as well as herself. Professionally, she is an accounting and finance major from Bangalore University and also did an MBA at George Mason University School of Management when they first came to the US. Although she has worked in the corporate environment, Sumana's heart is always with Swami's children and his education program. She is a trained guru and active member of the Sri Sathya Sai organization of the Global Council and has taught children in various groups within the Sai community and has served in various capacities in Sai centers in Delaware and New Jersey when called upon to do so, including the positions of devotion coordinator, vice president, and education coordinator. With Swami's blessings, she is currently teaching Group 4 SSSE and actually serves as the regional YA advisor over the past almost 2 years, right? And I have had the great privilege of having Sumana as a member of the Zone 1 Ladies Wing Committee. So as you know, we had a retreat in April of this year, and we worked very closely together for many hours over many days, and she is just a wonderful example of Swami's devotee. So with a lot of love, I welcome you, Sumana, and hand over the mic to you.
अन्यथा शरणं नास्ति त्वमेव शरणं मम तस्मात् कारुण्यभावेन रक्ष रक्ष जनार्दन यत्रैव यत्रैव मनोमदीयं तत्रैव तत्रैव तव स्वरूपं यत्रैव यत्रैव शिरोमदीयं तत्रैव तत्रैव पदद्वयन्ते. This shloka means, I surrender my everything to you, dear Lord. So this shloka, actually, that I just recited, means, I surrender my everything to you, dear Lord. Wherever my mind goes, may your form be ever present there. Wherever my head bows down or lays itself to rest, may your form be ever present there. So with that prayer, I wanted to first thank Ramya Auntie for that wonderful introduction. I don't know if I deserve such a glowing introduction, but thank you, Auntie. And I also wanted to thank Malini ji for being so kind and sending out that email requesting me to come here. When I saw her email, I was actually quite excited to be coming back to the Bethesda Sai Center. I say coming back, not because I spoke here before or anything like that. In fact, quite the opposite. When my husband and I were just engaged to be married, he lived in New Jersey. And I assumed that once we get married, that we would move into New Jersey. But his project just happened to be moved to the Virginia area. And he decided to make Virginia our new home. And once we were married, Virginia became home, and the Bethesda Sai Center became one of our first Sai centers that we visited here in the United States. But my husband, of course, was not as exposed to coming to the center as much. And I wanted to sort of introduce him gently, I guess, to the Sai fold. So we were people who would walk in through these same doors, sit way at the back, quietly, and then sort of make our way away. But this center really is legendary, at least in my mind, because when I was younger, Geeta Ramanti would come back. She grew up in Bangalore, like you all know, and she would give talks in Bangalore when she was visiting from the United States. And my mother always made it a point to take me to her talks. And she would speak so glowingly about everyone in this center. And she always said, a center near Washington, D.C. And I didn't know it was Bethesda or anything back then. And little did I know that one day, I guess through circumstances that Swami would, kind of bring together for us, that we would end up coming here and meeting all of you. So it's really, I'm very grateful to Malini ji for having me back at this center. So with that, I just wanted to maybe go back and give you a little bit of background about how my family first came to Swami. And before that, I wanted to wish all of you ladies here a very happy Ladies' Day. We cannot forget that. Yeah. And so I think, Swami keeps all of us so close to his heart. He dedicated an entire day. And today is actually November 19th. The very day. Usually, it's a Friday or a Thursday, and then we end up meeting over the weekend. But this happens to be November 19th today. So that was just so beautiful, the way we came up and, placed the lamps in front of Swami. Thank you, Sita ji, for organizing that. I was just chatting with Ramya auntie, and it reminded me of the time we used to go to Parthi too. We used to take that bus from Bangalore. It used to be 11 a.m. bus, go to Parthi. And once we got there, there was excitement to see Swami, of course, but there was also apprehension. So the first prayer that would always come to my mind was Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satya Devaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. And so the same thing happened today as we walked in, and I would see the little robe, at the end of my journey, and here I see a sea of orange with all of you. So Swami is asking me to see Swami in each one of you today. So with that, I just thought maybe I'll give you a little bit of background about how my family came to Swami. It was really through another set of very curious circumstances that my grandfather, in his hand was placed the book Sathya Sai Speaks. Until then, he had heard about Swami from people who used to travel to Puttaparthi and back, but he always listened to whatever they had to share with interest. But then he writes that neither was he curious about what was happening there, nor did he want to cast any doubt on what is happening there. So he knew from his studying, he was an author, a writer, an orator, and a professor, but he had also studied a lot of philosophies. And through some of his studies, he knew that, on the path of spirituality, people can sometimes acquire some skills called siddhis. So once he heard all of this information about Swami, he always thought that maybe this was some great person, a Siddhi Purusha, on the way to spirituality. But he was also warned by great teachers like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Swami Vivekananda that sometimes when you sort of are in that siddhi phase of your spiritual progress, a lot of ego can sort of manifest itself. And numerous people get stuck in that phase of the siddhis because people are giving them a lot of attention at that time. They're able to do things that other people cannot. So he sort of dismissed it, saying, okay, I have no reason to disbelieve what this person is doing, but I don't think I need to go see him. But when he was placed, Sathya Sai speaks in his hand at a friend's house, he actually started reading it, and then suddenly he was stunned. He said, is this the same person that all of these people have been describing to me? Because right there, in the very first edition of Sathya Sai Speaks, it said, God draws the individual towards itself. It is the nature of both to have this affinity, for they are the same. They are like the iron and the magnet. But if the iron is rusty or covered with layers of dirt, the magnet is unable to attract. Remove the impediment. That is all you have to do. Shine forth in your true nature, and the Lord will draw you to him. So once he read that, he was stunned. He said, Swami was a young man back then. This was in the 1960s. So maybe Swami was in his 40s, I would imagine. So he said that this young man has such profound things to say, and he couldn't put that book down. He actually read it all in one go. And he was stunned to see that this young man who has some of these powers, not just so superficial as he thought before, but actually had so much depth to what he was saying. So that's really, I think, interested him. And when the same family who used to come and talk to him about Swami, invited him to go to Puttaparthi, he went with them. And that very first darshan, when he went there, Swami was opening a few homes in Prashanti Nilayam. It happened to be, I think, a time when, it was Navratri time, the very first time he went. And then after the celebrations, there was a few homes that were being inaugurated in the mandir. So once he went there, one of the homes belonged to these people who had taken him there. So Swami came in, and it was almost like Swami had known him for a very long time. And as I was just thinking about this incident yesterday, somebody sent me that song. It's where it says, I have known you for so long. It is not a question of just yesterday or today. This is a relationship that has come for decades or even janmas. So that is how he felt when he saw Swami. He didn't have to say anything. Swami didn't have to say anything. He didn't have to say anything either. So why I bring this up is my grandfather lived in Bangalore. And it was around that time that Swami himself was stepping out of Puttaparthi, and one of the first cities, and for all the people from Bangalore here, one of the first cities that Swami visited outside of Puttaparthi, I think, at least in what I have read, is Bangalore. So he used to come to Bangalore frequently, and we all owe such a large debt to Geeta auntie and her family, right? Because they would host Swami. But Swami was, from the age of 14, he's always been on his mission, right? So when he started coming to Bangalore, just as, we saw this magnet that Swami was talking about, he was attracting a lot of these scholars towards him. Not because, he wanted to sort of, do anything much with them. These people were already well established in whatever field they were in. What Swami was trying to do was get them, because they had people who would give them a ear, right? So he was trying to get his message out through all of these people. So he would ask, if you have heard of Dr. V.K. Gokak, he also lived in Bangalore at that time. Apparently he was the chancellor of the Bangalore University. And my grandfather knew him very well. So Swami, after that first darshan, sent word to him to invite G.P. Rajaratnam, who was my grandfather, to some of those meetings that they were having in, I think it was called the Carlton House in Bangalore. And I think that housed the Bangalore University. That was the headquarters, which probably also had a home in it. So along with my grandfather were also invited my mother and her younger sister. Swami used to say, bring your children also. So they would all go together, and I was just recounting that it was very, very simple back then. Now we have this beautiful chair for Swami, we have a picture, but back then, Swami would come like anybody else, and just like how we have our study circles, he would sit down on the floor with his legs to one side, and that's how my mother describes it. And they would be sitting in a circle, talking to each other about really profound things, like we said in the Sathya Sai Speaks itself. They would talk, and he would give them guidance on how to start. They were building the Bal Vikas curriculum back then. So Swami would give them advice, and they were all on the same page. All these people wanted for the country a better education system. They realized that, it was only about 20 years, right, since independence back then. So they realized that the direction in which they would take this education system was very important for a nascent country like India back then. So Swami was giving them advice on how to bring in value-based education, through Bal Vikas, of course, and also in all of the various schools that were present in the state. So this was some of the work that Swami was very close to. And they were very eminent people from various fields who would be invited to Professor Gokak's house. Some of the names I would like to mention are, and numerous women as well. There used to be Dr. Bhagavantam, V.K. Gokak, there was B.D. Jatti, who I think went on to become the Vice President and President of India. There was also Mrs. Shanta Divakar. There was Dr. R.R. Divakar. There is also C.N. Mangla. She was, I think, the principal of one of the colleges, in a ladies' college in Bangalore. So all these wonderful people would get together, and what do we do, right? And Ramyanti just introduced me as like a management person. So just think about, if you had access to, people, scholars who could come up with a brand, what would we do? I guess in today's age, we would put a name to it, we would kind of, market it, and maybe try to monetize it, right? So that's the kind of world we live in. But none of these people were ever interested in anything of that sort. Money was, of course, very far away from what they were thinking about. They were here for that social change. And how did Swami do it? He did not, he could have very easily said, I'm going to come up with a course, right? Let's offer this course to all these people. From the money that we get, then we will start these service projects. And, that way we'll sort of glorify Sri Sathya Sai. So it was not like that at all. He went down to each school, each college. He started with the children. He started with the youngest of the lot. Who else other than the divine could think of such a plan? We would target like the most visibility. And these are terms we use, right? Like high visibility. He was not there for that visibility. He came down, he told them how to teach children. He told them how education should be based on values. He told them that they should build a personality. Character was most important to Swami. So some of these people now that we know that Swami is the magnet and all of these people were coming to him, he started off very, very small. And, when it started with such pure intention, there is no way, I guess, that this could be sidelined. So it became like a huge thing going on, especially in Bangalore, Karnataka. Swami set up the Anantapur campus, and these people were also involved in that. There was talk of opening the Brindavan campus as well. So I think one of those times, and because it is Ladies' Day, I would like to share here, is my grandfather was a brilliant orator. So during these discussions at V.K. Gokak's home, Swami would go over the agenda for the following day. They used to go to Brindavan the following day, and they would have a list of speakers for the day. So that particular evening, I think Swami looked at what their schedule was like, and he laughed, and he said, Nale namma, do some of you understand Kannada? Okay. So, Nale namma Ratnamma dance ide, he said. So, my grandfather also had a copy of the schedule, and he looked down. So, I'm translating it for you. It says, tomorrow there's Ratnamma's dance, and he looked very happy about it. And my grandfather looked back at the paper to see, because in all of his years with Swami, he had never seen anyone dance. He thought, okay, people talk, people maybe sing in front of Swami. There's never been a dance on the schedule, so he looked down. And then Swami looks at him and says, Ratnam, Nine, Nale, dance. And then my grandfather said, Yav Ratnamma, Swami? He said he heard it as Ratnamma, so which is a female name, right? Ratna is a male name, but Ratnamma becomes a female name. So he said, Yav Ratnamma, Swami? He still didn't get it. And then he said, He said, your talk, it doesn't come so easily. It is Natya Saraswati. So he said, Saraswati, the goddess Saraswati herself, when you go stand up there, goddess Saraswati dances on your tongue. So that's what he was saying, So that's on Ladies' Day, I think. I thought that would be interesting for you to hear. So my grandfather obviously, was very pleased. And another time, I think Swami told him, Nam college ke principal yaru, and I think this was the Brindavan college when it was being set up. And all of a sudden, he was looking at all the people in the audience, and he said, Ratnam will be the principal of my college. My grandfather didn't say anything, but all of a sudden, he materialized a diamond ring for my grandfather. And my parents, they tell me that when he came back home, he was really overwhelmed. Because first of all, he had no intention of taking any position. And secondly, he told them nobody ever thought of giving him a diamond ring. Nobody in his family, his parents, his grandparents, nobody ever thought. And he was such a simple person. You can see this picture back here. I just wanted to point out. And that really was their relationship with Swami back then. You can see Swami in a fit of laughter right there, right? And he used to have numerous chances to stand next to him and talk. So that's what I wanted to give you that background. So in his family, I came 2 generations later. So I'm very grateful for all the blessings through the years. But I also wanted, I think, to share with you all what Swami has said about women. And, since my mother also got such a wonderful opportunity to spend time with Swami, so these talks that would happen, like I said, my mother and my aunt and all of them would be privy to some of those talks. And they would be really like profound information that Swami would be giving them. But then, after some time, it would be a complete 360. He would come around and talk to these people like as if, he was one among them. And he has said many times, right? A man among men, a woman among women, a child among children. And when I'm alone, I am God. So he would just give himself completely to these people who were there in whatever form, right? When he was talking to G.P. Rajaratnam, Professor Gokak, it used to be a certain way of talking. And then he would come around and he would talk to my mother and, about the children, about family, about household. So Swami took all of us with him. Doesn't matter where we are in our lives. And he with his a mission, he gave each of us a role. And that's where I think women come in. And we figure so prominently in Swami's life. And also, I feel like, Swami's Advent itself, in a few weeks now, we'll be celebrating, not few weeks, sorry, few days, we'll be celebrating Swami's 98th birthday. And, it takes me back, of course, my grandfather was, a philosopher and a writer himself. But, I think the collective consciousness of human beings, there's a beautiful poem written by Rabindranath Tagore. I'm sure you all have heard of him. He's a Nobel laureate, of course, and he's the one who gave India its national anthem as well. So he writes, "Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake." And as if in answer to this very prayer, this was an ardent prayer by somebody who was born, in the 1900s, but as if in answer to our collective consciousness through this prayer, came Swami. And each of those words, I'm sure, ring true to you, right? Because when he started setting up things, when he told us, especially for women, right? He said, have self-confidence, he told us. So that's when the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Then it says, where knowledge is free, what did he do with all the institutions that he set up? So whoever is trying to monetize anything in the name of spirituality, should we go, I guess, behind them? Because the very word knowledge comes from goddess Saraswati. Swami just said, right? Saraswati dances on your tongue. Whatever you do, whether you sing, whether you talk, whether you pray, whatever you do, without the grace of goddess Saraswati, I don't think we can learn anything. So he says knowledge should be free. And so it is with our Bal Vikas classes as well, right? So where the world has not been broken up into fragments, Swami told us to be inclusive to every single person. So those were all of his words way before Swami even made an advent. So against that background, I just wanted to show you a little bit about, what Swami has said about women. So I guess who has this feminine principle is this question, right? So my grandfather was a man, and Swami said, Goddess Saraswati dances on his tongue. So what is, I guess, do only women have the feminine principle in them? I guess not, right? I guess we all have that feminine principle within us. So happy Ladies' Day to our brothers here as well. So Swami has made a very clear distinction. Every human being has this female principle in them. But he says the human body is made of two things, not just one. We have the body, and of course we have the Atma that is within us. So the things that are related to the body are hunger, thirst, sleep, tiredness, and this is common to all, right? Women feel tired, women feel hungry, men feel tired, men feel hungry, thirsty, they need to sleep. So this is common among all of us. But then there are certain things that actually emanate from the Atma. That is sacrifice, truth, forbearance, sympathy. These are things that are qualities again in both, but are very prominent in women. So in deducing from that, ladies, sisters, we are much closer to the Atma than our brothers here. So Swami says these things come very easily to us as women. Whereas men, although they have this principle, are able to and probably also should cultivate it for their own good. So this is what the clear distinction I felt when I was reading Swami's works, that we have that connection to the Atma naturally. So that is what makes us such good people to nurture new life, right? He talks about women as mothers. So who else can nurture a small child other than someone with these attributes that are so close to the Atma, right? So that's why he says, Swami says, it comes naturally to women. But not to say, feminism, that Swami's term, feminism, is very different from what maybe society would define feminism as. He actually says that men and women are both actually female only. He has given an example. He said, and I see Brother S. Kumar here, he was at our center last year, and Uncle was mentioning how Swami gave him the role of Radha when they were in college. But then Swami has actually turned it around and said, the whole world, oka girls' college, he has said. The whole world is actually a girls' college. But, because he as Paramatma is the only Purusha. Everyone else is Prakriti, right? We are all creation. Men and women are all creation. But he says we all have a role, just like how in a girls' college, if there is a king and a queen in a drama, they're putting up a drama, and then there's a king and a queen, the girl has to play the role of a king, and another girl has to play the role of a queen. So he says these are all roles that you have been given. Although you are Prakriti, these are roles that you have been given, and you have to do that to the best of your ability. So not to say you can't cultivate it, you could. So Sairam, it just came to my mind, I remembered Uncle S. Kumar telling us last year. So that's where I feel, we are much closer to our Atmic self. And Swami would play with the women around him, right? He defines bhakti in 3 different ways. He calls one Vatsalya Bhakti, which you almost think of God as your child or your son. And that is another bhakti that comes to women very easily, Swami says. So, and then there is, Anugraha Bhakti, where it's like the Gopikas had for Lord Krishna. When you have your own worldly duties, but you are also in love with God, right? And that I think is pretty much all of us. We have this Anugraha Bhakti. And the final one is, I think, like the Bhakti Radha had for Krishna. Wherever she saw, she only saw Krishna. So that is being one with the Lord at all times. And again, he says all these 3 bhaktis come very easily to women. So we can move to the next slide. So the word stri is the Sanskrit word for women. And stri signifies, Swami breaks it up into 3, saying sattvic, tamasic, and rajasic. Right? So we have all these 3 qualities within us. It doesn't mean, we can go to the next slide. So he defines the sattvic nature in 3 ways. Salokyam. He says, very easy for women, right, with the qualities that we have been bestowed with, to have a vision of the divine, and that is salokyam. And then he says, samipyam. You can get close to the divine physically. We are endowed with those qualities as well. And sayujyam, he says, finally, you even have the capacity to merge with the divine, with your devotion, like the 3 forms of devotion that we just spoke about. So we can move on to the next. So the tha in the word stri signifies humility. So usually tamasic means slothfulness, right? That's sort of the definition that you would give. But Swami is saying not that. Within women are these qualities of humility, kindness, and modesty. And again, modesty, I think Swami was very, very particular with women. I guess young women especially, because now our lives are led by, I guess, fashion statements and what we watch on TV and, how the society dresses is the way we would like to dress as well. But Swami, again, has like a very particular, if you just think about the times you went to Puttaparthi, if you actually wanted to be anywhere close to, where Swami would come by, you had to be very, very neatly dressed. So I tell my Balvikas children all the time that they should think about that. But of course, we cannot be like that in every society. But we can dress with dignity. We can have a dress sense that Swami would like us to have. So modesty, I think, was very, very important to Swami. And he says, there is a quote from Swami that I have as well about modesty. I think we can go to the next one. So first, let's talk about the Rajasic nature. So also, I think women have the spirit of sacrifice, right? I think right from the time that you have a child, right, you're constantly thinking about the child's welfare before your own, all the time. So that spirit of sacrifice, again, comes naturally to women. And Rajasic doesn't mean, again, Swami says, getting angry or getting aggressive. That's usually the connotation for Rajasic. But here he says, you're ever ready to do what? To sacrifice for others. And then you're also a protector. Everyone in the family, I'm sure if you think back to your mother, your own mother, right? They're almost a central figure in every family. Nothing happens without, actually there's confusion, I would say, when the mother is not around. Nobody knows what to do. But once the mother comes in, everything is sort of in control. And then she's sort of the protector of the family as well. So that's what Swami has taught about women. So if you go to the next one. So then Swami just says, 3 thus represents the combination of the 3 gunas. Women, who should be highly honored for these qualities, is being treated as a weaker vessel and assigned an inferior status. It will not be out of place to mention here that women who have wielded power in Bharat or other countries have proved themselves to be exceptionally able and successful. Right? So these qualities don't make us weak in any way. I think society tries to say that, when they talk about rights, they think they want to be equal to or better than men. That's not what Swami is saying, right? In fact, he's drawing our brothers. He's saying, look at these people, they're closer to their Atmic self. So in your spiritual definition of a woman is so much stronger. In fact, she has more qualities than men. The Bhagavad Gita itself says that women are bestowed with more number of qualities than men. So I think we have one about that as well. Oh, and of course the family, right? Swami talks about the family. And like when we started on our journey together as well, Swami has promised that, where the husband and wife are bound together by holy love, where every day both are engaged in the reading of books that feed the soul, where the name of the Lord is sung and his glory remembered, that home is really the home of the Lord, Vaikuntha. So I just wanted to share a small personal incident here. So like I said, Swami used to come to Bangalore quite a bit in those days. And one of the places that he visited was where I lived, called where I was born and raised, called Malleshwaram in Bangalore. So Swami, there was a small center that had been started there by one of the doctors. So they used to have bhajans in their home, and once my grandfather had got to know Swami, my grandfather and my aunt and my parents as well sometimes would go to their house for bhajans on Thursdays. So it happened to be one Thursday, and they went to this uncle's home for bhajans. And as they were singing bhajans, Swami came. So just like we are sitting here, right, such beautiful bhajans today, and as we are singing, Swami came. So they all turned around and they quickly placed a chair for Swami, and he sat there in his physical presence. And once he did that, they all sang their bhajans, and then they had a small discussion. And then, they had some snacks to eat. And Swami comes up to my grandfather and he says, Ratnam, mane tumba durana. He says, Ratnam, is your house very far away? And my grandfather is a little taken aback. He says, no, Swami, house is not very far. It's quite close. And that's it, right? And then he sort of just makes his way away from Swami. And then Swami again seeks out, my grandfather, and he comes back and he says, you just told me now, right? So is your house very far? And my grandfather again says, No, Swami, house is not very far. So this happens like 2 or 3 times. Okay, and this doctor who was actually hosting this bhajan, he walks up to my grandfather and he pulls him aside. And he says, Ratnam, what are you doing? Swami's coming, wherever you go, you're trying to hide, and Swami's coming and saying, is your house far? You're so rude. Can't you say, Swami, he's just one. Swami will never come without anyone inviting him. But he's eager, and just say half a sentence and he will be there. Don't you want that? But actually, to give you a background, my grandfather actually had lost his wife. My grandmother had passed away. So the way our families were set up, his house was at the back, and my parents' house was in front. So his house, like I said, he was nowhere near to a place where that could host anyone. Again, the woman was missing, right? So his house was filled with books. There were just books everywhere. There was a small place, I think, where he would entertain people. If they visited him, they would sit down and talk, have a chat about his books or something, and they would go. All the other rooms would be closed because they were filled with his writings, his large desk, his books, and all of that. So, when Swami asked him, he was suddenly like, okay, how can I take Swami to that house, right? It's not in a position to entertain or, host anyone. And then he says, okay, then he's still thinking and he's saying, okay, then maybe I can take him to my daughter's house. But at that time, their schedule, he was very aware. My parents at that time would light the lamp in the home, and it wasn't like where we used to go and get all of our things from the supermarket and keep it for a whole week, right? They would shop for their evening meal that evening. So they would finish their puja, and they would go and actually shop for fruits and vegetables or whatnot, bring it back home, cook and eat. So that was the routine. So in his mind, he was like, okay, these people have probably completed their puja, and they're probably out shopping. So he said, if I invite Swami, I'm going to be stuck. I'm going to have to take him to the house at the back. There's so much analysis going on in his head, right? But after this uncle came and chided him for not inviting Swami, I guess he just blurted out. He's like, Swami manege barbeko. He said, Swami, you should come home. And he said, yeah, definitely, I want to come home. He said, and then he quickly called that uncle, who was hosting him. He said, let's go, Ratnam's house, let's go. So my grandfather was a little, still apprehensive, but he said, okay, he went with the flow. He's like, okay, Swami has decided we're going to go. So they drove in from that uncle's home, and they came home, all of them in that car. They all drove with Swami himself. And then they came home, and my grandfather quickly, he's praying that my parents are home. He came and knocked on the door, and then my mother came out. And my mother, they happened to be home, and our house was set up in a way there were these 2 large windows on the ground floor, and my mother came out to open the door, and there in orange and bright, beautiful, with his beautiful hair and smiling face is Swami. So there was no cell phone, nobody could call and say, keep things ready or any of that, right? So all of a sudden, Swami is standing in front of her window. And then she quickly calls out to my father and says, please come, Swami's come. And they open both the doors. And then Swami walks in. And again, there's no, just like how we would maybe go to a friend's home, right? He walked all over the house and went straight to the puja room. And then he stood there. He said, then he looks at a picture of my grandmother, and then he says, mother is not there, I know. And then he said, today is Thursday. Swami wanted to come. Swami has come with tumba santosh. I have come with so much joy and happiness to your house. And he said, thank you for inviting me. That's the humility of our Lord. And then my grandfather, I think by that point, he has tears in his eyes, and he says, Swami, if half a word is mentioned that Swami will come to somebody's home, they will roll out the red carpet. They will put toran all over the house. They will light lamps. They will prepare a meal. They will invite him with so much joy, pomp, and glory. He said, Swami, I could not do any of that. We could not even keep an aarti plate ready for you, Swami. You have to forgive me. And then he points straight to his heart and he says, the only thing that needs to be ready is this. And he pokes him there. He says, the only thing that needs to be ready is this. The minute Swami says yes, that's all it is. He is with you, he's in your life all the time. So I think they were very moved by that incident. And much later now, when our SSSE coordinator, the national coordinator, Sumana Madhav, she, I think, once mentioned that she was talking to a little boy in her Balvika's class. And that boy, I think she told them, Swami is there with you all the time. He's with you, in you, around you, all the time. And then boy comes up and, after the class, after giving it some thought, he comes about and he asks her, what? So you mean we have no privacy? And she says, yeah, no privacy. And then he says, okay. And then he walks away. But literally, brothers and sisters, when Swami came, he knew every bit of that house. It was not a very pompous, big house. It was a small house. He didn't have to ask, where is this room, where is that room? He actually went into my parents' room as well. My father quickly was trying to wear his white clothes, right? He was probably just at home, so he was trying to make himself more presentable. And Swami manifests vibhuti and puts it all over him. So we don't know the reason why Swami insisted and he came, but nobody had to introduce, Swami, this is the puja room, this is the parents' room, this. But why I came to this incident is because of this. Because I owe a debt of gratitude to my parents as well. Each of them came to Swami on their own terms, but that is the kind of home they created for us. They created a home where both of them were bound together by spirituality. And that came first. That took precedence over everything else. And so when a home is like that, that's what Swami expects of us. And he says women are actually the spiritual leaders who can actually guide men to create a home with that kind of environment. So when the home is like that, God himself will make his way there. You don't even have to invite. You can try to avoid him as much as you want. He will be there. So that's, that incident that came to mind when I read that quote. So I guess as my life progressed, my mother was actually quite concerned. Later, by the time I was born, and Swami himself, indicated to my parents that they should have a third child. They actually were done, they were pretty much in that phase. My two older brothers were old enough, and, my mother finally was, okay, a little bit of hands off. But in one of the interviews, I think Swami told her that he has made, my mother had put a full stop after 2 boys, and he has actually made it a comma. So coming from a literature's family, I guess he used language to sort of describe what was going to come. And my mother was also a little taken aback because she was like hands off by then. But then I think Swami sort of insisted like a few times, and so that's how I sort of came into Swami's world and orbit. But over time, I think, as the crowds started increasing so much in Puttaparthi and Prashanti Nilayam and Vrindavan as well, my mother would constantly take me. She would take me to Vrindavan, to Puttaparthi. My parents would make it a point to take me, and they would pray also that, Swami's grace is always on me. But then, things started getting very busy, right? For Swami also, it was on a huge mission. So, but my mother always had this ardent prayer that, I also should sort of have the same sort of feeling for Swami and the experiences that, my family has had. So, just out of nowhere, I guess, one day Swami, I think, turned around, and she would always tell him, Nimma Magalu. He would say, your daughter. Every time she got a chance to interact, she would say, take blessings, and then she would say, your daughter, Swami. And then once my uncle had told her, what about the other two? They are also his only, no? You shouldn't just say your daughter. So my brother, actually, my older brother, since my grandfather was also involved during the setup of the Brindavan campus, he got a chance to study in Swami's Brindavan College for 2 years. We lived in Bangalore, and it was my grandfather's wish that he study in Swami's institution. And he was there, and Trai Brindavan, I think, had just been opened then. So my brother was standing here. One of the duties, they would have all of these different duties for the students. He would be in that mandir while Swami was there. His duty was to wipe off some glass panes in the Trai mandir. So he was doing that very diligently. And then Swami comes out. Swami comes out, and then he's just looking. He's looking up, and he says, nice, nice, he says. And then he asks my brother, he says, whose house, which family are you from? Then my brother's a little taken aback, but he said, okay, maybe if I give my grandfather's name, Swami will know. He said, G.P. Rajaratnam family. Swami says, G.P. Rajaratnam, okay. Daughter's son or son's son? He says, then he says, daughter's son, Swami. And then Swami says, And then he turns around and says, daughter doesn't have any sons. Daughter has 3 daughters. So my brother's super confused, right? He's standing there. He's a boy. He's standing there in the mandir. He's telling Swami he's the daughter's son. And Swami's saying, no, daughter doesn't have sons only. She has three daughters. So he calls my mother from there. He's very happy. Swami, interacted with him. Such a wonderful blessing. He calls my mother and he says, Mom, Swami spoke to me. And he said, yeah, very nice. What did he say? So he says, he told me you have 3 girls. So my mother actually is very happy. She's like, I have raised you all right, she said. She said, I have 2 boys and a girl, but I have treated all of you the way I would raise a daughter. And that's actually a compliment for me. So take it that way, she said. So she got what Swami was trying to say, that she only had 3 girls. And then my brother also was quite happy. So Swami plays, with words, boys, girls. They're all the same. We're all the Atmic self. But he has certain roles for us that we have to sort of follow. So as my story progresses, I guess my mother was quite worried, what will happen if Swami, does not interact directly and things like that. But he created a set of circumstances where when I was in my young adult years, it was my ardent wish also, but he sort of drew me close. And then he kept me, Bangalore was changing very rapidly at that time. How much time do we have? Sorry, anyone? 20? You sure? Okay. So Bangalore was changing very rapidly at that time. Usually when young people say, I'm growing up here, and a lot of people of the Anantapur girls grew up in India. I did not get a chance to go to Anantapur. I actually studied in Bangalore. Later, of course, I know the reason why, but I studied in Bangalore, like any of you who are studying here. So there were a lot of influences, right? When during your college years, especially, there's the city itself started to be called like a party city, and all my friends were sort of into that. They said, you're stuck in some generation, you need to come out a little bit, so things were quite different at home. We were raised, slightly differently. My family was quite open, but there were certain things. My mother was very clear on certain things. She had no, she was not like unsure about Swami's teaching. She was very clear, where the border was. So we wouldn't obviously go home and ask, right? So, the young people today say, you YOLO, right? You only live once. But then we know that's not true. It's more like PJ, PM. And that's what my mother used to say, PJ, PM. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. There is no YOLO. It is said, that you do whatever you have to do in this life, but if you are not on this spiritual path that God himself has come to grant you, like put it in your lap, right? If you are not paying attention to that, and you're saying YOLO and doing whatever you want, you're going to be stuck in this rut forever. You're going to keep coming back and back and back and back. Yeah, the Bhajagovindam says, Punarapi Janaram, Punarapi Maranam. So my mother would always say, be guided, see what the end goal is. And anything in your path that does not lead you to that end goal of that mergence with Swami, which is going to take you away from that path, you have to be very wary of. So even before we could ask for any of these things, we had to think twice, right? Because we were already on this path. And Swami put us in situations where he would come in Puttaparthi and say just a couple of things, right? And you would know that he knew exactly what was going on. So you wanted that darshan also, right? You were not going to skip going to Puttaparthi and seeing Swami. So you would keep your self in such a way that you are okay facing Swami. Your conscience had to be very clear, because even before you may do something and you may forget it, but Swami always knew what you were up to, how you were up to, what you were asking for. So we had to keep our conscience very clear if we had to have that courage to even go sit in darshan line. Because my brother once, I think, had been called Dunnapota in darshan line, and both of them used to tell me, see, she's done this, tomorrow she's going. I said, tomorrow you're going to get it from Swami. But actually, Swami was very sweet with me. And I think it was mutual. I would sort of want to do what Swami was telling me to. And he made it in such a way that I would keep wanting. He didn't give me everything all at once. I had to really ask for it. And he responded in so many little different ways that only he knew and I knew. So for each of us who are on this path, who think, just sitting for bhajans for an hour and dressing nicely for Sai Center, and then going out and doing our own thing, going out with friends, dressing the way we want, because we are not in the Sai Center, we can do what we want, be a little forewarned. Because he literally knows everything. And like we said, there's no privacy. Yeah? In your room, in your home, the books you read, the clothes you wear, the things you hide, he knows them all. I think sometime somebody had sat in darshan and Swami said, go take a shower, you have not taken a shower. And then he came back and he said, why did you use soap 2 times? So what more can we say about our Swami? So once you're guided by that inner conscience, everything else starts to fall away. There's nothing that, if you go on that path, it's not taking you too far. And that journey back is much longer than if you had just kept straight, right? It reminds me of Geeta Auntie's story of, reaching Puttaparthi and taking side roads, going all over the place, right? So if we just stay, keep ourselves in a position to stay on that path, it's so much easier for us. And remember, for Swami also, right? Because he has said, you do all of these things. You take 1 step towards me. I will take 100 steps towards you. But if you keep taking those steps backwards, how many more does he have to make up to come towards you? Think about it, right? We've already in that situation where he has to, come and there is a beautiful Kannada, I think, poem that calls it Mankutimana Kagga. Doesn't matter how much you're told, you're like that Mankutima. You have nothing in your mind, that you don't absorb it, right? So we're all, like my friend says, we are Mankutimis, as women. It's nothing gets into our brain. So if you stay on that path of that one pointed focus on Swami, it's easier for Swami also to shower his grace on us. We have to remember that. And, our end goal also is very, very clear. So I just wanted to also narrate a couple of incidents with, like I said, there were numerous women, right, in leadership positions within Swami's organization. So there were bhajan teachers, bhajan leaders, there were, like I said, educationalists, they were all women. So once, I think in an interview, Swami had invited my family, and along with that was also another auntie, and she was the head of this bhajan group in Bangalore. And then they were together, and that auntie was actually the wife of a colonel. So when they were sitting together, Swami said, Yara, military, he said. So this auntie was like, Swami, husband, military, Swami, colonel vandirka. Then Swami said, adu ange. You know, in there he is military. Veetale yaru military. He said, who is the military at home? Veetale needa military. And that wasn't an insult, sisters and brothers. That was actually, you know, she was taking leadership in the home, and she was an efficient, a wonderful bhajan trainer for all these women in Bangalore. And so Swami knew, right, what was at home. She was that person who kept discipline. She kept everyone on task. She ran the home. And so she said, yes, it's okay. Ange, in the battlefield, he can be military. Homele nida military. I said, that's a compliment. Another time, I think the same bhajan group, Swami, I think, had tried to change a little bit of the leadership. They were singing beautifully for numerous years. One, right before I was married, there was some changes that were happening. There was another leadership, another auntie who had come in. So Swami was giving her some instructions. So all of these older women, right, they've sang for so many years in Swami's presence. They're all like curious what new instructions are going to come from Swami. And I used to get a chance from where we lived in Malleshwaram. My summers used to pretty much be in Vrindavan. Swami would be there for 1 or 2 months. Every morning, I would wake up in the morning. Any of the aunties or uncles who lived in our area, if they had a seat in their car, I would ask, and I would go to Vrindavan to spend. And with my family also, we used to go. So I used to overhear some of these things. So somebody had spread a rumor with these aunties that Swami has said, Vayassa paathu edukka for the bhajan group. Vayassa means age, right? So these aunties were up in arms. They said, we have sang for Swami for so many years, and now Swami is saying, for the new recruits, Vayassa paathu edukka. So they were chatting in the car. I was sitting quietly. I had nothing to do with any of this. I was not a part of their group. I was like, how can they talk about Swami like that? I didn't want to say anything, but I was listening intently. So they all said, today we are going to come together. You know, that much unity, I think Swami also has not seen. They said, today we are all going to come together. Doesn't matter, let Swami come even like close to us, we're going to surround him. We're going to ask him, how can he say, Vayassa paathu edukka? So they said it was a nice, beautiful bhajan morning. They all sang very well that day, one united voice. And then Swami came close to them. They all surrounded Swami. It was right there in the darshan hall. They all surrounded Swami. They said, Swami, they said. I said, Yenna. What today is so special? All of you are like, you sang so nicely. What is it today, suddenly? Then he said, Swami, sonninga ninge vayassa paathu edukka. I said, Nana, vayassa paathu edukka sonnena. Would Swami ever say anything like that? Now voice paathu solukku sonna. He said, I didn't say look for the age and take them. I said check if they can sing well. Voice paathu edukku sonne. Voice paathu edukku solville. So for those who understand Tamil, so vayassa and voice are very close in that pronunciation. But Swami was very clear that he would never say something like age discrimination, right? We're all like, how could? It's like not possible. Swami doesn't do that. He said, voice paathu edukka sonne. So, you know, the numerous such incidents, and I grew up sort of with all these women. They used to be, like I said, really eminent people. They used to be people from our everyday lives. They used to be aunts and uncles who would request to come with us. So my real training in the Sai way of life literally was through all of these people that I saw. And most importantly also, I have to mention Geeta auntie here. It's such a role model in my life. I do look up to her. quite a bit. And, in our ladies' retreat, I think we had another auntie from Puttaparthi talk. And so she said, choose your role models carefully. She said, don't let them be rolling models, doing one thing one day and another thing another day. And I think Geetanti has been such a perfect example of that, because she doesn't just stand up and talk, right? She has actually lived her life that way. And even my mother made it a point to take us to listen to those talks, because when we are amidst those people who have lived their life like that, we are also motivated. Right? It says satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nirmalatattvam, nischalatattvam, nischalatatve jivan mukti. So he said, through this satsang, and Swami has given us such a beautiful satsang. It's not like I used to talk to all these people on a daily basis. It's just the way they conducted themselves, the way they led their lives. Even to this day, right? They lived in another country. But they still led their life in Swami's way. And we all can do it. We just say, we just happen to say that was then and that was there. But each of us are able to do it. And we have numerous examples around us. So if we take these role models and not rolling models, I think we can lead our life on Swami's path. So thank you all so much. I just wanted to, on the topic of motherhood, I think I just had one small video to share. So if you can play that, and we will conclude with that. Thank you all for your presence here today, and very happy Ladies' Day, everyone, again. Sai Ram.
One of the greatest country songs that the great Harlan Howard ever wrote was a song that you did, Bring a Tear to a Glass Eye, called No Charge. Would you do that for us?
I'd love to.
Do it right.
I'll try. My little boy came into the kitchen this evening while I was fixing supper, and he handed me a piece of paper he'd been writing on. And after wiping my hands on my apron, I read it, and this is what it said. For mowing the yard, $5. Making my own bed this week, $1. Going to the store, 50 cents. Watching little brother while you went shopping, 25 cents. For taking out the trash, $1. Getting a good report card, $5. And raking the leaves, $2. Total owed, $14.75. Well, I looked at him standing there expecting, and 1,000 memories flashed through my mind. So I picked up the pen, and turning the paper over, this is what I wrote. For the 9 months I carried you, growing inside me, no charge. For the nights I sat up with you, doctored you, prayed for you, no charge. For the time and the tears and the cost through the years, there's no charge. When you add it all up, the full cost of my love is no charge. For the nights filled with dread and the worry ahead, no charge. For advice and the knowledge and the cost of your college, no charge. For the toys, food and clothes, and for wiping your nose, there's no charge, son. When you add it all up, the full cost of my love is no charge. Well, when he finished reading, he had great big old tears in his eyes. And he looked up at me and he said, Mama, I sure do love you. And then he took the pen and in great big letters he wrote, paid in full. When you add The full cost of my love is no charge. Sitting in front of all these you peers out here, I could thread a sewing machine and it run.
Everybody in the room's either blowing their nose or wiping their eyes, cleaning off their glasses. That's what country music does, a great country music song.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I have to give my gratitude to Swami for bringing Sister Sumana to speak at our center. Thank you. That was absolutely beautiful. Not only was your grandfather a gifted poet, you also are a gifted poet. Every word you spoke, you drew the image, and I could visualize what you were saying, and it was really, really beautiful. We're so blessed that we have our young kids here, that we're also lucky to hear you speak. And on Ladies' Day, you shared pearls of wisdom, not just for us ladies, but for the other half of the group that completes us also. So we can't, like I said, we can't stand here without them. So thank you for showing what Swami has said about their qualities that bring that out to us. I wanted to have a Q&A session, but we're not. That's perfectly fine. We wanted to hear you talk. With that, all I can say is please come back, so that we can continue to hear you speak, and you can address our young kids also that are here. We would love to have you come back. So please take this as an invitation to come back again. Before I ask Sister Indra to just give you a small token of love and affection, for what we wanted to do is the Radio Sai Media Center is doing a recording for Swami's birthday. So we are asking for all the ladies and the gents, we can do 2 recordings, for all the ladies, after the Aarti is done, please stay back. We want to record the theme that they have, which is Every Heart, Sri Sathya Sai Ke Saath, Happy Birthday Swami, we love you. We want to have all of you, all of us in a picture, and where we say that, Anshu has, Sundar had asked Anshu, and he, has agreed to do that, and we would love to get the men to do the same thing also. So after Aarti, if you could just stay back, and we would do that recording. With that, I'd ask Sister Indra to give a small token of our love and affection to you, Sumana. Thank you so much for coming. We really, really appreciate it.